Hello there and a very warm welcome to another edition of Channels Beam on Channels Television. I'm Victor Matthias. Today on the program, following its directive last year to banks to close all accounts that deal in crypto, the CBN fined 4 banks to the tune of 1.3 billion naira for flouting the order and allowing such accounts to still operate. The CBN had over a year ago directed deposit money banks and other financial institutions to desist from transacting in and with entities dealing with crypto, and followed this up by launching its eNaira. Today on the program, we will revisit the operations of the cryptocurrency, the fears, and how players in the industry have either gained or lost trading. We will also take a look at how Nigeria's eNaira is faring since its launch last year. But before we do all of that, let's first of all take a look at the trending topics in the past week.
Nigerians condemned the unfortunate death of popular gospel artist Osinachi Nwachukwu after news broke out that she allegedly lost her life due to domestic violence. The incident also brought to the fore conversations around gender-based violence and ways it can be stopped. Christians around the world celebrated Palm Sunday, which signals the beginning of the Holy Week. The day symbolizes the entry of Jesus Christ into Jerusalem, where they triumphantly rode on a donkey a week before his resurrection. The event is recounted in each of the 4 canonical Gospels of John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Twitter has been agog since Vice President Yemi Osinbajo declared his intention to run for the office of president. In a 7-minute video, Professor Osinbajo detailed his past achievements and also listed areas where his presidency will focus on if elected.
Well, there you go. Those were the trending topics in the past week. But joining us to look at today's topic, we have with us Abiodun Dabiri. He's a Nigerian blockchain engineer working on blockchain technology, where he consults for businesses looking to implement blockchain technology, of course. Abiodun currently works as an engineering manager at Essential Software Company, where he leads a team of engineers building interesting fintech and supply solutions. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the program. He's joining us via Zoom from Lagos.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to join you, Victor.
Indeed, it's a pleasure. Indeed, it's a pleasure to have you as well. But just before we kick out the conversation, do be reminded that you can be a part of the conversation from wherever you're watching around the world. You can tweet at us at Channels TV, at Channels Beam, at Victor_MBIDI. You can use the hashtags CryptoBan as well as eNaira. Well, let's get the conversation started. Abiodun, thanks again for joining us. Of course, last week we heard what transpired between the CBN and the banks, of course, that ruckus, which led to a ban being slammed on a number of banks. But so pretty much it slipped through one way or the other, and here we are, people are still trading crypto. How has this been happening?
Okay, so people can still trade. Why? Because people still have foreign accounts across the world, right? I mean, you are a Nigerian, but you can open an account anywhere in the world these days, right? And apart from that, there's also the peer-to-peer market, right? Most of the platforms have benefited from creating a peer-to-peer market whereby people are able to exchange offline, outside of the Nigerian financial system. And what that does is that basically, right, whatever revenue or possible income that can be generated from that has been totally eroded. Why? Because there is no visibility to these transactions, right? So a lot of people can do transactions by bypassing the Nigerian ecosystem. I mean, what about people that do cash and they give each other cash and then they exchange the crypto? There's no visibility to that.
Yeah, so I guess that's where the whole issue probably arises from, because it's something that you cannot track, it's something that you cannot trace. Isn't that scary enough?
Well, it can be tracked and it can be traced, right? The issue challenges is actually linking a crypto address to an individual, and that is where the KYC that is done by the exchanges is important, right? Had it been that the CBN are taking the approach of saying, let us, monitor these exchanges, let us ensure that they do the proper KYC and onboarding, right? At that point, you'd be able to tie an address to an identity. And another thing is that the addresses and all the transactions, say for instance, the ransomware, the kidnappings are done, most of those crypto transactions can be tracked on the block explorer, right? And that is one of the advantages of the whole blockchain cryptocurrency thing, that there's transparency to see these transactions. Only a few blockchains like Monero, for instance, have the privacy feature whereby you can't really know who sent it or where they sent it to. But every other blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, you are able to explore the blockchain and track and trace each transactions. There are companies that offer what they call KYC and AML services that check these addresses to know if these addresses have had transactions that are illegal or illicit, right? And we have businesses that have been built on that itself. And what those businesses do is that they help you check those addresses so that those addresses are not part of the addresses you do transactions with. The US government, for instance, uses some of these particular services to track the addresses that are being used to send crypto transactions. But most times, it has no direct connection to your bank statement. Your bank statement transactions can only be tracked if, for instance, you have a new fraud detection tool that has different rules to identify potential crypto transactions. And if it identifies the potential crypto transactions, it still needs to validate that this particular crypto transaction is actually a crypto transaction. So yeah, how the CBN determines that, I don't really know, right? I have no visibility to that. But if they were kind enough to share the processes they follow, it would be a very interesting read.
Interesting it will be, but let's hope they do that soon. So it's good you made mention of, the kidnappings and all the ransomware and all the malwares and all of those things that are happening. That is also one of a major concern for a lot of people, because if kidnappers are asking for a ransom, or someone takes hold of your system and he says, oh, for me to let it go, you have to pay crypto into a particular place or into a particular account or into a particular address, I mean, how it's been put. So what now happens, I mean, with all of the KYCs like you talked about now, I mean, how do we bridge that? How do we get people who hide behind, these currencies to perpetrate such heinous crimes? How do we bridge that gap? How does the KYC even come into play?
So recently, to answer your question, I'll give you an example. So recently, one of the crypto exchange platforms called Binance, right? They put out a notice. And the notice was that they were blocking a couple of accounts across the world. And the reason why they were blocking these accounts was because they had gotten a request from the FBI to block those accounts. So why would the FBI say they should block those accounts? Well, the FBI would say they should block those accounts because the FBI had received reports that those particular addresses have been used either in a ransomware or in a kidnapping, but they've been used for illicit activities. So therefore, the US government, the FBI, is able to apply pressure on a company like Binance, because Binance has a US presence. So they're able to apply pressure on a company like Binance to ensure that anybody that has received funds through those addresses are blocked or reported on their platform. And that is how, one is able to say, okay, this address has been...
So that's the thing. They're blocked or reported. They're not arrested. That's my concern.
Well, blocked or reported, yes. Now, the FBI actually can request for the details of these people. Why? Because they can exert pressure on Binance, because Binance has a US presence. So they can ask Binance for the identity of these people, and they can begin prosecution. But then remember, many of these people are across the world, right? So prosecution might now have to do with the individual countries' extradition rules and such.
Yeah, so that's one thing. So that's one thing. On the other hand, I'm thinking about VPN, displacing your IP address. How do we address something like that?
Okay, like someone that has used the VPN to, to try and hide his location.
Exactly.
And then use the address, or maybe has used the fake identity to sign up on Binance and such, right?
Indeed.
Binance actually has a proper KYC, and not just Binance, most of these crypto platforms, they have a proper KYC system where they ask you for your government ID. And with your government ID, they also ask you for your BVN, at least in the case of Nigeria, for instance, right? So there are very few cryptocurrency exchange platforms that don't ask for that. Practically every one of them will ask for that. And everybody that needs to transact usually ends up giving out this information, which includes your bank, your passport, your IDs, your BVN in some cases, right? And if you were to, use a foreign country service, say for instance, you use one of the platforms registered in the UK or in London or in the US or in Cyprus or in Estonia, for instance, you would still be required to provide your government identity. And with that government identity, they keep that on file, and that is what they use to identify you. So if push comes to shove, right, they can always contact Interpol and hand over those identity documents to Interpol.
Let's
use fake documents, they are able to identify that it is a fake document, because fake documents are usually, how do I say it, manipulated graphically. So if it has been manipulated graphically, they are able to tell that this is a fake document that has been manipulated, and we cannot accept this document. But if you were, for instance, to use somebody else's document, like an innocent person's document, right? That is where you have a problem, because that innocent person, right, would be liable for that.
Yeah, unfortunately. So it's good you're bringing out all of these scenarios, but pretty much it's now turned into some form of a job for so many people. I mean, in Nigeria now, people are trading cryptocurrencies, and all of that. What has been the situation? I mean, what's the market been like? I mean, are people gaining? Are people losing? We've seen a barrage of stories out there that I cannot recount here, but what has been let's say now on a scale of 1 to 10, what has it been like for, the good and the bad?
So so what really happens with trading is like, it's a trader's market. You go, you buy, you sell. You buy it at a good price, you sell it at a better price. If, for instance, you buy it at a price, and for whatever reason, you lose faith or you choose not to, hold on, right? And you choose to sell it. So there is a lot of volatility in the crypto market as against the traditional Forex currency, buying Russian rubles and then buying US dollars or buying Canadian dollars and exchanging it, right? There is volatility in that market, but the volatility in that market is not as much as the volatility you have in the crypto market. So yes, people do make money with it, true, probably because they bought it at a time when the price was good and they sold it, or they predicted that it was going to drop, and so they shot it ahead, which is, I predict it to drop and I buy it back at a cheaper price. A lot of people make money, but a lot of people lose money as well, right? So there is a lot of losses, like in the recent incidents whereby it has dropped from about 70,000 to 46,000, dropped further to 38,000, and recently rose back to 43 or 42. A lot of people's accounts have been wiped out.
I would have a heart attack if I had. I would have a heart attack if I had bought crypto at that point in time and then it crashes like that. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm going to survive it. But just hold it there for a bit. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll also look at Nigeria's eNaira and look at how it's been faring. That will be in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We still have with us Biodun Dabiri, who's joining us via Zoom from Lagos. We're looking at, of course, cryptocurrency, the eNaira, and all of the conversations going around that sector. Biodun, I was, looking at the eNaira, which was launched last year as well by the CBN. If you to make a comparison between both of these, what would you say stands out for each of them?
Okay, so the eNaira, right, very interesting concept. I used the eNaira today, right? I was able to send and receive. So now the eNaira is not a public, it's not a cryptocurrency first and foremost, right? It is more or less a CBDC, that is a central bank digital currency, right? And what that means is that the central bank has given this digital currency as a means of people to, exchange money and exchange goods and services. And it runs on a blockchain, but the blockchain is a private blockchain that is only accessible to the partners. So one of the major differences you will notice between eNaira, for instance, and another kind of currency, digital currency, that is not a cryptocurrency, but in this case, it's a stable coin. Say, for instance, USDT. USDT runs on a public blockchain. You can see the transaction history, right? If you give me an address, I can check out the statement, the bank statement of that address. So there's visibility into that. But for the eNaira, there's no visibility into that. Now, an advantage that the eNaira has over the USDT is this. Curiously, right, the USDT has a transaction fee. The eNaira doesn't have a transaction fee for certain amounts that are lower. So, for instance, I loaded my eNaira account today with about 1,000 Naira, and I asked my friend to also load our eNaira account also, and we sent 10 Naira back and forth about 10 to 20 times. After sending it back and forth 10 to 20 times, we still have 1,000 Naira each. So meaning that there was no loss of value in the exchange. If you are exchanging
so
money,
like charges, are you talking about charges in this instance?
Yes, there were no charges. There were no charges for me to send 10 Naira back and forth 10 times. There were no charges at all. So that's a good thing for the eNaira. Yeah.
Oh, I see. But there was a lot of backlash when the eNaira was launched. There was a lot of backlash. One, and two, the fact that a lot of people couldn't download. A lot of people just had a lot of issues with it. What would have changed from that period till now?
Yes, fixing problems, right? Just launching an application. It's just like when we had some of the NDDC portal or one of the immigrations portal that was open and then people crashed it because there's a lot of people in Nigeria. If you launch something from the government, you can expect over 1 million or 10 million hits. Now, those 1 million or 10 million hits could create an unintended denial of service attack on the platform itself. And that was one of the cases with the eNaira. Now, there are other issues that people don't like the eNaira. Say, for instance, it does not appreciate in value because it's not a cryptocurrency. So people need to understand that it is not a cryptocurrency. It won't act like a cryptocurrency. It is actually a digital currency that is tied to the same Naira. The biggest advantage is that you can send it at no charges. It's easy to send back and forth, right? And it is instant. So I can send eNaira to you instantly. It doesn't take waiting time. It doesn't need to go through the bank settlement system to arrive at your wallet, which is an advantage, meaning that you can have quick and fast payments. The only challenge is that getting onto the eNaira is still a bit, only for people that have bank accounts and BVNs. If you don't have a bank account and a BVN, you can't get onto the eNaira, right? So you must have a bank account for you to be able to use the eNaira. And in a way, that might hinder onboarding how do I say, people that do not have bank accounts. It might not speed up the process of access to banking for the general populace.
Yeah, because I was looking at it in the part of financial inclusion, because you have the unbanked, which is a quite percentage of the population of the country. So automatically they've been excluded, from having the opportunity to use the eNaira. But let's even put that aside. Let's look at, the whole blockchain, because you pretty much have said blockchain, but we've pretty much just dwelled on the eNaira and the cryptocurrency. But what other application runs, on the blockchain that people can benefit from?
Okay, there are many things that people can benefit from on the blockchain. One of it is what you call decentralized identity and integrity solution. That is using the immutability feature of the blockchain to record ownership and to exchange ownership of items, right? And in a way that also brings to mind things like NFTs, right? NFTs are used to represent ownership of an item. So an artist that has taken a picture or an artist that has made a sculpture, right, could digitize this sculpture and make it available to a wider audience to appreciate. And it allows the wider audience to even take ownership of this particular item and reward the person for that. One thing that really one can do is, for instance, real estate itself. If you build a blockchain solution in Nigeria today, one of the safest ways of integrating a digital currency is to integrate the eNaira, given the ban by the government on by the CBN on financial organizations offering services to crypto firms or exchanges. right? So if you're building a blockchain solution and you want to integrate a digital currency, the best to integrate is the eNaira. And I think that's one of the places where the eNaira will really see value or adoption, when people begin to build real estate platforms on blockchains and begin to use this real estate platform on blockchains and allow people to pay for this real estate platform on the blockchain using the eNaira. It will sound like music to the government. Yes, why? Because it will promote the use of the eNaira while keeping the Naira as safe as they want to keep it, away from the cryptocurrencies volatility. And at the same time, allow people to benefit from using the blockchain itself to build decentralized identity solutions or decentralized integrity solutions, solutions that rely on accountability and a source of truth to be accurate, which is documents, licenses, warranties, renewals, certificates, a whole lot of things.
Well, it seems there's just a myriad of opportunities in there for people to pretty much to dive deep into, you know, and take advantage of. But hopefully, all of that would happen with more awareness being created out there for all of this to be, for people to see the need for them, or the use of it, you know, for them to be able to get it into place and have, of course, the benefits. But hopefully, all of that will happen in the nearest future. But I have to say thank you for joining us today and sharing your thoughts on this. Abiodun Dabiri, blockchain engineer.
Thank you very much, Victor. It's a pleasure to have. Thank you very much.
Of course, you're welcome. Well, that's where we are. That's where we'll wrap the program as well. But we'll leave you with the most videos on our YouTube channel in the past week. Thank you so very much for watching. I'm Victor Matthias.
Dear Nigerians,
the declaration by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo of his intention to run for president in 2023 kicks off this week's chart in 5th place.
Formally declaring my intention to run for the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
It's followed in 4th by the story of Biggie, a Nigerian who now owns 2 restaurants in Dubai. Third spot sees human rights lawyer Femi Falana revealing why he never voted for President Buhari.
I'm a lawyer. You don't come to the public and discuss who did you vote for. It's a personal, private matter. That is reflected.
The reaction of councils after a court struck out 15 charges against Nnamdi Kanu takes 2nd spot.
I'm fair-minded enough to know that a system that does not allow other litigants to have their day in the court just because of one litigant cannot be said to be fair.
While in 1st is a declaration by Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi of his presidential ambition come 2023.
I stand before you today to declare my intention to serve as your next president.